Good evening, everyone. Those have dialed in at the moment, and generally we'll have more in the next few minutes. Welcome to our November Western Apiculture Society monthly mini conference. Tonight we're going to feature speakers and officers from our two national beekeeping associations. If you didn't know, the United States has the American Beekeeping Federation, which is the older of the two, and the American Honey Producers Associations. Dan Winter is here from the American Beekeeping Federation and Chris Hiatt from the American Honey Producers. Both of them have their annual meetings coming up in the next couple of months in December and in January. And our speakers are here tonight to tell you a little bit more about their associations, what the upcoming meetings are about. If you're interested in attending, or if you wonder what they do, or if you're thinking about joining one of them, this is your chance to find out more information. Way we'll do this tonight is each of the two speakers will have 20 to 30 minutes to give an overview of their associations. We'll then have our sponsor, Strong Microbials, or Microbiomes. I don't know how you prefer it to pronounce, but anyway.
Microbials.
Microbials is right.
Microbials. Anyway, they will give you a couple minutes about, they're sponsoring the cost of the license tonight. And so when the speakers finish, they'll give you a little bit of an overview of their company and their products. And then I'll come back on for a question and answer where we can I'll direct questions towards our speakers. So for those of you who have not been on one of these conferences before, please use the chat for, hi, I'm from here, or I got a technical problem, or so on. But questions for the speakers, please use the question and answer, because I will go and take the questions from the Q&A, not from the chat. This is obviously Veterans Day, and I think we should all take a moment to acknowledge the service of our veterans, both the ones that are here with us and those who unfortunately have passed. We really appreciate their service, and it's a day to pay tribute to that. I also have some sad news. Those of us from the academia are particularly affected by this. Roger Hoopengarner, who was a professor emeritus, retired from University of Michigan, passed last weekend, and due to COVID. They went through a senior citizens community. So he will sorely be lost. He's a real loss. He was a great person. I considered him a friend. He was very active in a lot of beekeeping things and fond of information. So we lost a good one last weekend. So there are a couple other things that I wanted to mention. This is the second to the last of the mini conferences for this year. The board of WAS has decided we will continue to have mini conferences next year on a monthly basis. The general annual meeting for the membership is December 15th, but we invite anyone, whether you belong to WAS or not, to our annual meeting. But if you want to fully participate, and we will have a speaker, our speaker on December 15th, it'll again be 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, will be Albert Johnston from the Saskatchewan Queen Project. Albert's been developing a line of queens that in Canada that he thinks are better suited for overwintering. And those of us in northern states know just how important that is. So I think it's a great speaker. We'll have one speaker on December 15th, and then we'll have our general membership. For those who want to participate in the annual meeting, we ask you to do register for that one. And for 2022, these mini conferences will be free to folks who join WAS and are members of WAS. And there'll be a charge, for monthly charge, probably about $10 for those you don't want to join WAS but would like to participate in some or all of the mini conferences. So this is 2021 gave you free mini conferences with the help of our sponsors who pay for the licenses. 2022, we hope that some of you will seriously consider joining WAS and becoming part of the society. WAS's mission primarily is to be educational. So as I think with that, pretty well covered it. We'll have our speakers, then a short presentation on the strong microbials, and then I'll do the question and answer, moderate that. So let's lead off with Dan Winter. Dan, I'm going to let you introduce yourself because I know you've got a laundry list of titles and activities, and you can tell them about American Beekeeping Federation.
Thank you, Jerry. My name is Dan Winter. I am currently the Vice President of the American Beekeeping Federation. I am past president of the Empire State Honey Producers Association in New York State, and I'm also on the New York State Apiary Industry Advisory Committee. I've helped Ag and Markets in New York establish different bee laws and helped get beekeeping registration passed in New York State. And I'm very fortunate to have been raised in a beekeeping family. I run about 2,500 hives of bees between New York and Florida. Now, it's not a lot of bees, but this is certainly enough to keep me busy. We pollinate apples in New York and vine crops in Florida. We also send bees to California for almonds. So I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about the American Beekeeping Federation. I am currently vice president, as I said, and the American Beekeeping Federation has a little over 1,200 members. Our club, our excuse me, the ABF will act on the behalf of the beekeeping industry on issues affecting the interests and the economic viability of various sectors of the beekeeping industry. This is our mission statement. And how do we function to get to our mission statement? Our board of directors has members that are elected from all facets of the industry. We have special interest groups called SIGs that cover the industry. That cover different parts of the industry. You have a commercial beekeeper SIG, a honey producer packer SIG, package bee and queen breeder SIG, and a small scale sideliner SIG. So we truly cover all facets of the beekeeping industry. Everybody's represented pretty well with the American Beekeeping Federation. And, all these groups are very active on the board of directors. The ABF's members put forth resolutions that the board of directors follows to ensure that we're representing our members, how they want us to represent them. All the resolutions from 2020 are available on our website, abfnet.org. I myself have been working this week on continuing resolutions and making sure that we're up to date on those and making sure that we're doing what our members want. Recently we decided to look around at different management companies, and we've decided that I think we're going to switch management companies. So the ABF really wants to represent their members well, and I think they're proving it. So the American Beekeeping Federation has many programs. The ABF founded the Foundation for the Preservation of Honeybees. That's a charitable research and education foundation organized with the mission of preserving and protecting honeybees to ensure a quality food supply and environment for those honeybees. We also have the Friends of the Bee Fund. It was established by the ABF for the purpose of raising funds for the purpose of education, honeybee health, and research into issues that have a detrimental effect on honeybees and beekeepers. We have the American Honey Queen program, and also that's also an educational outreach program. They try to educate both the public and children, around the country through many public appearances throughout the year. They'll go to your state fair. If anybody ever wants to book the Honey Queen program, that's available through our website, abfnet.org. They love to come to state organizations and different organizations and talk about bees. The ABF is very proud how they represent us nationally. It's really phenomenal how many states they can get to in a year. It's outstanding. They really work hard to have the right knowledge to represent beekeepers, and it's an outstanding program. So the ABF auxiliary, the kids and bees, they all add to educational outreach. The ABF members have many educational resources available to them through our video webinars and panels that cover, almost all beekeeping topics. Our Facebook page and our website are very current with tips and different aspects of beekeeping. Joe Comprado, I believe he's on this thing tonight. He does a segment for beekeepers through the ABF. The average Joe beekeeper tips, which is great. We try to reach out to all aspects of beekeeping. Why did I get involved with ABF? I love the honest interaction, I get when I attend the conferences. The beekeeping industry is a tight group. They help support each other and help each other out. If you remember anything from what I talked about tonight, remember the beekeeping industry is a fairly small industry. We're all on the same side and we all work together. The only people that can help you out in the beekeeping industry are other beekeepers. And that's a fact. I mean, that's the one thing that's always made me proud about the ABF is our outreach and our education and our willingness to help other beekeepers. I think that's one of the ABF's most important strengths. So you can be a part of our lifestyle and look into joining the American Beekeeping Federation. We have members in all 50 states and a state delegates committee that likely represents your state. I believe we're up to 48 states or so. So most every state has a American Beekeeping Federation state delegate. There's monthly meetings that they bring back things that happen in their state and keep the ABF current on what's going on all across the country. And actually in some other countries in some cases. So, if I can answer any questions today or anything else, you can contact me personally at bman.dan@icloud.com. And of course, all of my contact information is available through the American Beekeeping Federation website, abfnet.org. So that's all I really have to say tonight. And I really appreciate you, Jerry, giving me some time to talk a little bit about the ABF. And our annual convention is coming up here in January 5th through the 8th at South Point Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I really hope to meet some of you there and hope you come and enjoy our conference. I myself am planning on going to Chris Hyatt's conference. I was invited down by Wes Card, who's president of the Louisiana State Association. And so he asked me if I would come to a American Honey Producers meeting. So I'm kind of excited. I've never been to a honey producers meeting, so I'm gonna go to that one myself too. So I'll be at both of them. So thank you, Jerry.
Okay, Dan, one quick question. Some of the
Yes, sir.
people here may not be members of ABF. I assume that they can, can you chat just a moment about, are they welcome at your meetings? Do they have to join ahead of time, or can they join on site, or can they attend even if they're not a member?
Oh, absolutely. Everybody is welcome at our meeting. You can join on site if you care to want to join the ABF. I think you can come to our meetings without being a member, I believe. I'm not actually sure about that, Jerry. That's a good question. I might have to find that out for you because I'm not exactly sure. But I've been a member now for about 15 or 16 years. My father is a 50-year member of the American Beekeeping Federation. So I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I believe you can sign up right on site, and walk-ins are definitely welcome.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to Chris Hiatt, and then when he's finished, we'll go to some questions. And so again, I remind everybody you can address your questions for Q&A for either speaker. So Chris, you same thing. You want to introduce yourself? I see. Hey, I got a shirt just like that one you've got.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Jerry. Did the slides, let's see, did it go? There we are. Look good?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Chris Hyde. I'm zooming from Madera, California. I'm a commercial beekeeper. I spend my summers in North Dakota. That's that picture at the top. Yeah, I've got 4 brothers that we all work together. My dad started this business 54 some years ago. We're about 20,000 hives we run between California for almonds, and we send some to Washington apples, and then they all go to North Dakota for the summer. Except for this summer, we kept some in Washington, California because the drought was so bad. We had a record bad year. A little bit about the American honey producers. I'm the vice president of the American honey producers. And my dad, he was actually at the meeting when ABF and AHPA split. So he's been 50 plus member years of honey producers and beyond. One thing I wanted to just talk about is that, yeah, we work for all beekeepers and we want to help take on problems dead on. That's kind of what we're known for, taking on big problems. Recently, we just hired a really good timing right before COVID. Maddie Joyner is our social media person. And if you see on Facebook, she does a lot of cool videos and tips on helping fill out ELAP and other things. So check us out on Facebook. There's a lot of good information. And then our website too, there's stuff for members and there's stuff for the whole general public. Our meeting is coming up here quick. It's in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, December 1st. And we were going to have all the ABRC, which is the researchers, their conference, and the Apiary Inspectors of America. But due to COVID, they are going to go virtual. But we are still having our in-person meeting in Baton Rouge. So we're excited for that. The biggest thing that happened for us lately is that we filed an anti-dumping suit against a lot of this cheap honey that was coming into the market and ruining the honey price from mainly India and Vietnam, but it also included Argentina, Brazil, and Ukraine, which was like 90% of all honey coming in. So it was us, along with Sue B, it's the big co-op. We filed a petition, and myself and David Coy testified in front of the United States International Trade Commission. Luckily for COVID, I didn't have to go to DC, so I just did it via Zoom. So that was nice. And we won. So we're in about a week or two, we will know the duties and the tariffs that'll be applied to this honey coming in. Just to be open and honest, it's expensive to do these dumping suits. So the honey producers, we're paying 1.25 million. Sue B's paying $1 million. And we'd like to thank the American Beekeeping Federation. They're going to pay $250,000 towards the dumping suit. So I already said that 90% of the honey coming in was from those countries. Look, just real quick, part of the problem with some of that coming in is it's economically motivated adulterated honey, which they're using resin technology to scrub some of this honey. And a lot of this goes to the industrial market, but it is still deflating our price. And that was one thing that we wanted to protect. All American beekeepers get a better price for their honey. Last year, I got $1.65 for most of my crop. This year, $2.30 and above. So the effects we saw in early April and May, and then the drought just even added up another 20, 30 cents beyond the 40, 50 cent jump per pound. So it was a really boon for the average American beekeeper. So just really quick talking points. This is just showed from the dumping suit. They were underselling dramatically, 42 to 66%, depressed the prices. And one interesting thing that we just filed, this critical circumstance, which is retroactive 90 days, it showed that packers brought in a whole bunch of honey when they knew the dumping suit was imminent. So that they can go back and get those duties 90 days. So that'll be really cool. So look at the top number, you can see from October to this past October, look at the average price, US white, $1.60, now $2.27, like a 42% increase. It's been a real boon for the industry. And it just at the bottom was what I was talking about, the 40% increase, Argentina, just a huge increase in honey coming in. So we, every 5 years, you have to do a sunset review to keep that in place, just like we did in 2001. American honey producers and Sue back in 2001 put a tariff on China, We won that dumping suit. And I can remember I was first getting into the bee business with my dad. We had like 55-cent honey and it jumped up to like $1. And that was huge, huge importance to the American beekeepers. And this again will have to be maintenance on this sunset reviews. Every 5 years, you have to pay to go against some of these importers to keep the duty in place. So we're actively doing this, and everybody that's involved will get a questionnaire from the ITC if you produce any decent amount of honey, and it's quite a bit of work, but you have to put on all your expenses and your average production and et cetera, and all that in there to show the ITC that you're an injured party. So our group is asking everybody to give 5 cents a pound on your average production, and please donate to help pay for this. We don't have enough money to pay for this anti-dumping suit, which helps even the small beekeepers. If you sell at the market, your prices are going up. So it's a good investment in the future. And if you can send a check, maybe screenshot this, take a picture, our accountant in Great Falls, Montana, or if you want to do electronic payment, you can email Cassie Cox, our secretary, or just phone her, and her number's right there. So with that, I'll jump into one thing that we did a couple years ago. We have a pretty powerful lobbyist, and we go to DC every year, our executive board and our president, our vice president, I'll advance by so. And we got $1.5 million appropriated through Congress to customs update their testing. They were using 17-year-old testing, the trace element test, instead of using nuclear magnetic resonance. And that's an NMR machine in Missouri. I was standing by. So we think that's going to be huge, stopping some of this funny honey from coming into the United States. That was a big win for beekeepers. There's a good year, whatever, 7 years ago in North Dakota, where you want to see clover. But this is this year. Look how dry it is. Terrible, huh? So one thing that we try to help is, keeping our honey production up. And just so you know, the honey, the amount of pounds produced per hive has just steadily gone down since the 40s. A lot of that is habitat loss, like the CRP program. Farmers are paid not to farm. That's all gone into soy and corn, and just all the pastures are going away. And we're actively trying to fight that and trying to get more acreage appropriated for conservation reserve and some of these other projects with like through Pheasants Forever. I've been to many meetings doing that. I'm a part of the executive board for the Honeybee Health Coalition. We've done a lot of work on seed mixes along with Project APSM. I'm on the board for Pollinator Partnership, kind of tackling some of these big problems. And there's constantly everybody wanting to attack us. It seems like the poor beekeepers. So this upcoming year, I went all the way back to the 40s. I know the guy in DC that does the Economic Research Service. This will be the worst year ever. It's an estimate it's going to be 125 million for the crop for the country. And that just, you go back all the way to the 40s, and that's before forklifts. And that's just amazing how many colonies they had, but they still had higher production that we're going to have this year. So it just shows you how bad the drought was. That just shows you just the constant. We're pretty much staying right around that 2.7, 2.8 million hives, but just look at the drop in production from the 90s, from the 200s down to 140. I mean, it just keeps dropping. But the good news is, look, the retail price, 2010, just $4.82. Now it's up to $8 plus, almost 8.5. So one thing also we're involved with is the Emergency Livestock Assistance Program for beekeepers that have emergencies. Their hives get burned up, fires in the west, hurricane hits it in Louisiana, Texas, or if you have high dead outs from colony collapse disorder, we helped uncap that program in 2017. So back in 2016, it was 15 million paid out to beekeepers, 33 million, 29. Now, the last few years, been 55 million paid out to beekeepers. A lot of that is directly through our lobbying efforts. And so that's another reason why we asked for donations to help keep this thing going. Well, good news is in 2022, the colony loss level is going to go from 15%, from 21% back down to 15%, whereas more the historical average, and the price to $258 from $148 for colony loss. So that'll be huge for those of us that suffer big losses and having our hives die. Another issue for those of you in the South is the tallow tree. The aphis wants to release a flea beetle and a moth to try to take out the tallow tree that's been here 200-300 years and is the #2 honey produced in the United States. So we're actively fighting that. And we formed a task force with a lot of the state bee associations in the South. A lot of this is one of our good executive board members, Joe Sanroma from Louisiana. He formed this task force, and we hired this Matt Weekly, an environmental consultant, and he wrote the white paper that we submitted to rebut the aphis to trying to release these this biological. And just so you know, a lot of these biologicals have a 10% success rate. So besides that, does it make sense to take out your #2 forage in the United States? What's it going to be replaced with? Probably something worse. We know that in New York, purple loosestrife was replaced with a worse noxious weed, and we lost a good, honey plant. So we're actively fighting this and trying to stop it. We'll keep you posted on that. One thing we're also doing is we really need a farm gate value of crops pollinating the United States, just to, it is a national food security issue that our bees need to be alive to pollinate our crops, 16 billion worth, so we don't have to import more food from Mexico and Chile and China or Australia or wherever. And we kind of found that out during this, supply chain crisis. So that's a huge issue that came up in this USDA State of the Science workshop I attended. There was a few beekeepers invited, along with all the top ARS heads of the labs. And that was one of the big things that came out of it. And from the last farm bill, we helped create Izzy Hill, which is the pollinator position. She's the pollinator coordinator, and she's been a great asset and advocate for all beekeepers trying to get research coordinated through all these different groups between university, ARS labs, and so money is appropriated right. Yeah, you need some redundancy in research, but also you don't need some wasted money and stuff being duplicated. So that was a cool plus that came from the farm bill we worked on. So one thing that came out of that State of the Science was updating the farm gate value of pollinated crops. Another interesting thing that came out was EPA admitted when they did their ecotox, the database, they had incorrect data on soybean trials. They used the worst variety, the variety of soy that yields, it secretes the least amount of nectar. That's what they based all of their LD50s and stuff on soybeans. So they're going to try to update that. So I thought that was kind of an eye opener. Another thing that maybe you didn't hear about, the Forest Service, 55 million acres of forest land, only like 55 or 50,000 hives allowed on Forest Service at like 0.1%, less than like 0.1%. Well, the Xerces Society is a nonprofit, and they are actively trying to stop us from putting bees onto the Forest Service. They filed a case in the state of Utah. So we got a pro bono representation through a law firm in George Mason University, Anton Scalia Law School, and for free they're representative. So that was great. That was another plus, having a good lobbyist that had connections. And some of that we're finding is it's not competition, or is it preference, this whole native versus non-native bees. And we really trying to switch and say managed versus non-managed, because there are fossil records of Apis mellifera. It goes back, thousands of years here in North America, but they really want to pit the honeybee against the native bee. And a lot of the science is very inconclusive in this area. And so we're actively fighting this. Right now, the USDA basically just punted it and said, no, they're going to hold off. They need more information, which was sort of a win on our part, but it's not the definite win we wanted, but they pushed it off. So we're still working on this, but that is a very concerning, and there's other groups that are just fighting against it. And one thing I don't understand is just, a rising tide raises all boats, and you getting more forage and more flowers helps honeybees and natives. We're actively, trying to protect natives, but we can't restrict access for honeybees where we have so few places to take our honeybees that are clean away, away from pesticides. So some of the things that we're also pointing out is that to farmers, especially through the Honeybee Health Coalition I'm working with, is, instead of doing another spray late season, having hives near canola, sunflower, soybeans, your yields can be increased 10, 15, 30, 40%. That could, replace a pesticide being sprayed into the environment. So that's another issue that we're working on. Just to finish, there's some hives I got stolen last year in almonds. Don't leave us empty handed. I'm asking if you can, please give 5 cents a pound your average production. Yeah, this was a sad deal. Never saw those hives again. But unfortunately, with the high price of almonds, this is becoming more common in California, stealing hives. And Jerry, I think that's it.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. I'm really glad to see those numbers are bringing the average winter mortality down 15 to 21%. It also plays into what I've argued for years, that the BIP surveys, although well-intentioned, the data about 30, 40% losses in all of us, I don't care if you're small, large, and so on, the occasional bad year. But overall, when I've looked at the BIP stats, you find out that those really extreme stats of 30, 40% losses are based on the largest group of their self-reported members or survey respondents, which are mostly hobby beekeepers. You got 2 hives and you lose one, you got a 50% loss. So it's a bit of how the stats are also run. I've always seen that the commercial guys are running in the mid-20s or so on, year after year after year, on average. I mean, there's certainly any one of you guys could get blown away with some of these things. I mean, I saw huge losses during the first few waves of the CCD and so on. But I think good professional beekeepers know what they're doing, multi-generational and so on. You wouldn't be in the business if you couldn't keep your bees alive. That's not to say we don't have problems, but so let's see. So I guess the one thing, Dan, I'll ask, and hopefully we didn't lose Chris there. I think he's here. He's still showing these things. Dan, if somebody that hasn't known about the associations or just thinking about the 2 associations and so on, where do you see the 2 at in terms of your audience or your membership? I mean, obviously some people belong to both groups and some belong to one or the other.
Sure. The ABF, we're a strong lobbying group also. We work on several things, side by side with the American Honey Producers Association. We've got lobbyists in Washington as well. And, we're working on this lawsuit along with the honey producers. I can see our association growing. We get new members all the time. Through our state delegates committee, we have a great outreach program. And, I've been very happy actually with the way beekeepers have learned better to communicate. I've spent my life in beekeeping, and when I was a young kid, beekeepers rarely talked amongst themselves. And now it seems to be a huge outcrying of information. And, I'm really glad to see beekeepers working together to, accomplish certain goals and certain tasks. I think, I think it's really underestimated quite often how much beekeepers actually do work together now. I mean,
the question I asked Dan and Chris is, somebody thinking about 2 associations or maybe belongs to one or the other, what would you think, how would you characterize AHPA as, why a person, one might choose AHPA, versus ABF, or where your distinction is? It's, for those that are not familiar with it, I mean, I know a lot of people belong to both, so there's no real conflict here, but, who are your primary members?
Well, yeah, mostly it's the commercial beekeepers, but we have some guys that are 200 hives, 500 hives, 1,000 up to 80,000 hives. So, but it's fun talking to all beekeepers. I mean, we have very old couple, biggest beekeepers in New Hampshire. They've gone to our meetings for years and years. I think they run 500-600 hives, and just it's a real diverse group from all over the United States. But one thing we just really focus on the problems of beekeepers and just attacking them head on. I mean, you saw the list of just all the different fronts that we have issues with: access to public lands, to the honey price and the adulteration, and man, all these things. It just, and there's other things I didn't even mention. Like when we haul hives, we got 150 air mile radius, so we can have, because you can't stop when you have a load of bees and you're out of hours, commercial drivers. So we got that extended with the help of the cattlemen. We partnered with them. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we just want to tackle head on to make beekeepers profitable, stay in business. And
Okay.
we're always kind of like the little guy, and we feel like, you know, big chemical is taking advantage, and we've had a lot of spray damage over the years and we've never really been listened to, but finally with this pollination, the amount of billions of dollars, especially the almond industry, we have a listening ear now. So
Okay. So Chris, some specific questions. One, and Anthony asked, he says, in terms of all this honey and the anti-dumping thing, says, who was buying all the honey?
well, it's the packers. Big packers are bringing this honey in. A lot of it maybe be going to, granola bars or cereal or whatever, but it's still dishonest and it's unfair to hurting the domestic beekeeper.
Okay.
That's the main reason, why we're doing it.
And another specific question from Colonel LaGrange, you and I both know. He wanted to know whether your slides would be available to us. Now we are recording this session. Chris turned, I saw had the recording turned on, Chris Tausser, and it will be in a week or so, we'll have them up on the website so you can get them there. But I imagine, Chris Hyatt, that if Gary wanted a direct copy of the PowerPoint, you provided to him.
For sure, Gary, I can. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of places already have it. I spoke last week at the Mississippi State Beekeepers. Tuesday, I speak at the California State Beekeepers, and then December 1st at our meeting, there'll be the same slides, but mine will be available on our website shortly in December. But yeah, I can send them directly to you, Gary, no problem.
Okay, and another is a comment that says in Hawaii, we're finding that, Carrie says, in Hawaii, we're finding that introduced ants, none of them are native, do more damage to the native bees than the introduced Manny's honeybee. They're most likely, is that similar on the mainland?
Jerry, I have a comment on that. I'm on the advisory board for Penn State, their Penn State entomology, and I did a peer review study of there's some endangered plants in Hawaii that are being pollinated by honeybees because the native bees are extinct that pollinated those endangered plants. So there's a talking point we can use against the kind of the only native people. And one ridiculous and kind of threatening thing that's come up, I don't know if you've heard of, it's called Mel Bio. It's this fake honey. It's just like, fake meat, Beyond Meat. Well, they're doing honey that's out of the lab. And they're making claims that we are evil and like direct quotes saying that the honey industry is the cause of the downfall of all native bees. So buy this honey, you will be supporting native bees from the evil honey, and literally almost word for word on their website. So the National Honey Board, I just got an email from Margaret, the CEO, tonight about they have a response. We're helping with the response on that. They just got samples of this fake honey, but it's just crazy that all the different fronts people want to attack beekeepers in the honey industry.
Yeah, and the fake honey, you may bet some of at least that actually has to come from a plant that is bee pollinated. So it's a circular argument. For your information, Chris, Scott Debnan, who has been with me a long time and is finishing his PhD, I mentioned this last fall. He and his mentor got published a new study on what he was doing in terms of the interaction of native bees and managed bees, and how flowers play the game of, again, like the plants you said weren't being pollinated by the native pollinators. It's a refreshing piece of paper because it says that there's all kinds of interaction going on here. And some of those really some competition at times stimulates the others and so on. So it was a hard paper to get published because they got several of them where this native bees are good, managed bees aren't. And to have a paper come up and say, it's not quite that simple. And so it took them a while, but I got it out. I'll have to send you the link to that paper. It's available.
Cool.
So Eugene from ABJ asked, have ABF and AHPA discussed the possibility of another joint conference at some point?
We haven't as of now. I mean, with the whole COVID thing, we haven't. We did try to help everyone, especially the researchers and the vendors, by switching our meeting to the first week of December from being the exact same time at both meetings. So we hope that would help. I've talked to a lot of happy vendors and researchers that don't have to fly between both meetings.
Yeah, and I appreciate that too.
You know, I know several of our members, you know, have discussed that through the ABF, and you know, we've talked a little bit about it, and you know, hopefully we can get together. I'd like to see another joint meeting. I thought Galveston was very, you know, very successful. You know, and I liked, you know, I like talking with all the people in the industry. You know, it's nice to get together. And you know, as I said earlier, you know, the beekeeping industry is not a huge industry. The more we can work together, the better. You know, so I think, you know, I'm all for it. If we can, Chris and I can get together sometime and make it happen. If, you know, if we can somehow make it work, that would be great. I know that changing the meetings apart is a little bit different, but maybe we can be flexible and make it happen. You never know.
So a little off topic here, but our sponsor appreciated this. Jerry, another Jerry, not me, says more like to hear a presentation on strong products. We're working on a schedule for next year for WAS for monthly conferences and so on. So to the strong people, essentially get a hold of us, and I'm sure we can find a slot next year. Let's see, what else did I have here?